Welcome to the Parrish the Thought Show. The opinions of Brian, your host, and his guests have not been sanitized or scientifically tested, so please consume at your own risk. Now, here's Brian.
Ladies and gentlemen, and whoever else is listening, welcome back to the program. My special guest today is Julie Azevedo Hanks, Dr. Julie Azevedo Hanks. Sorry, I needed to give you your credit for your credentials. And
thanks, Brian.
so thank you so much for joining me today. It's fun to talk to you. I've been watching your stuff for many, many years, and I feel like a little fanboy, actually.
Oh, my gosh. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
Well, thanks for coming on. And just to also some credentials. You're the owner of Wasatch Family Therapy, correct? Here on the Wasatch front in Utah.
Yep.
Tell me a little story about the backstory, the history of that. Why did you start that? How'd you get into this field?
Yeah. Okay. A couple of questions. So, I went to therapy as a teenager and found it really life-changing. And that kind of led me on a journey to want to do that for other people. So I really love the social sciences. I got my bachelor's in psychology, master's in social work. During that time, got married, had 2 kids. And then in 2002, just right after my 3rd child was born, I started my own clinic. I had been working for someone else. And it was just me. It was a solo practice, but I named it Wasatch Family Therapy because my vision was to bring in more people that were like-minded and kind of create a group that's cohesive and fun, and where I get to pick everybody that I get to work with. So we've been around for 23 years. We have 3 locations in Utah, and it's so fun. I work with the best people, the best clients, and yeah.
And there's no shortage of work.
Right. There's a lot going on. Yep.
Is that just on the human scale? Is that a therapy? A lot of the issues that we deal with nowadays, have they always been there? We just have labels for them now. Are these things newish?
Yes, and yes. Right. There's some that have always been there, and there are some unique challenges given technology, social isolation, like less face time with people, smartphones. There's a lot that's different, and people are now mobile, right? You can live in different places. We used to live in communities with extended families, and so we're a little bit more disjointed in the modern, tech age. So I think that creates some unique problems, but I think we're also dealing with the things we always have been dealing with in terms of mental health.
Just human condition.
Yeah.
Because I look back and I experienced some pretty heavy duty anxiety this year that I've never experienced, crippling, and I never experienced it and almost didn't even know what it was, even though my wife's been in the mental health field for almost 18 years.
Wow.
And I recognized a time when I was about 10 years old when I was going through, I look back and I can remember those dark, empty feelings, 10-ish, and I had no one to talk to about it. And I just thought, my life, I'm going to die. The world is over. It was dark. And so I can recognize it now. That's what it was way back when I was just a wee little tyke.
Yeah. So, it's so hard. It's a burden to carry.
Yeah, for sure. Well, tell us about your LDS background. Because we're leaning into that story of, church things. So
yeah. So I grew up in the church. My parents were both lifelong members, and both sides go back to pioneer stock. Did the whole Mormon thing. I grew up in Los Angeles. So in that way, it was a unique upbringing, but we were a pretty Orthodox family, had family scripture study, prayer, went to church. My dad was the bishop for several years when I was growing up, and, did young women's and the whole thing, and then went to BYU because that's where you go to find a husband. My parents really never talked about the education. So I kind of had to figure that out on my own. But I got married at 20 after my freshman year so I was in my second year of college when I got married. And then a year later had our first son. I was in undergrad at that time. So we got married in the temple, and we're doing the Mormon family thing, young 20s, and scraping by, working a couple of jobs, school, all that good stuff.
You were doing all the steps, all the things on the list, right?
Ryan. Yeah. And I was also doing music at the time. I started writing songs as a teenager. And so I was doing concerts and recording and things like that throughout my teens, 20s, and 30s.
Well, can you tell us a little bit about your family background for those that may not know who you are?
Yeah.
You come from quite a musical, quite a artistic family, correct?
So my grandma on my dad's side was a famous singer in the big band era with her sisters, the King sisters. And then the King family had a television show in the late 60s, early 70s. Now my dad's he's a trained classical pianist turned arranger, composer, and he produced records at Capitol Records and was music director on like Sonny and Cher show and Jackson 5. Worked with Michael Jackson. So he was doing that. And then he wrote this kind of thing on the side, this stage play, wrote the music to it. And it became a huge phenomenon in the 70s. And it's called Saturday's Warrior. And that kind of catapulted this thing like religious music in Mormon culture that didn't really exist other than the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. So it was kind of the first pop phenomenon.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
I think I knew a very high level of that. And I saw your interview on Mormon Stories with your uncle.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. That was fun. Thanks for watching that.
All the things that he was involved in. Like, wow.
Yeah. So I performed when I was really little with the King family would still tour in the 70s and do live shows. And so I toured with my grandma and have really fun memories of that. And then as a teen, I started doing my own music and concerts and things like that.
That's very cool.
Oh, thanks.
That's very, very fun. Well, let's just dive right into the meat of why you're here. I wanted you on because, and I had Valerie Hemaker on a few months ago. For those that don't know, Valerie Hemaker is the host of Latter-day Struggles podcast out in Kansas City, and for about the last 3 years, and she's just blown up and reached the world with her message of trying to help members of the LDS faith with a lot of the challenges that people are dealing with in the club. And I just heard your interview with her yesterday that you guys did last week.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah.
And it's mind-boggling to me. You know, I've been in for 30 years. It's all made sense up until about 3 or 4 years ago. And I had a daughter on a mission, and she said, and she's like Nephi. Faith in Nephi, she doesn't question anything. It all works. And she was like, Dad, the sexism on my mission is ridiculous. And I was like, what? You don't complain about anything. What are you talking about? How are you noticing anything off? And it really I started looking into things. And, you know, of course, now when you start looking, for lack of a term, rabbit holes,
there's a lot to find.
You can't unsee things. And I couldn't. I'm like, wow, yeah, women kind of get hosed, and it isn't equal. And so anyway, so now I'm a self-proclaimed feminist-ish. I have my boots on, and I'm trying to help in that arena. So, but there's so many other things, and I've had 2 girls who left the church, raised 3 in it. 2 have left, and we're talking about all these traumas and things they were dealing with. And I was like, what are you talking about? I never saw any of that. Of course, because it's set up for me.
Yeah.
The system is set up for me.
Right. Absolutely.
So tell me, what's your perspective? What is, I mean, obviously when you step away, it's not something you just willy-nilly do. It's a long process.
Right.
I've been in for 3-ish years, and I'm not out. I'm not, I'm kind of balancing. I'm trying to see how much value I can still add So tell me what,
Yeah.
let's give us your story.
Yeah. So I have been creating online content for a very long time, at least a couple of decades. But about 10 years ago, I started doing more content specifically for Latter-day Saint community and women in particular. And I wrote several viral blog posts for Meridian Magazine. That's a really conservative LDS magazine, not owned by the church. And during that same time, I was reading the Gospel Topics essays, the November 2015 policy excluding children of gay parents from baptism and priesthood ordination came out. And so at the same time, I was kind of on this faith journey, listening to podcasts, and just decided I really want to know, and I'm willing to look anywhere. Because the Gospel Topics essays actually started this leg of my faith journey. Like, wait, the things I was taught growing up aren't true, and things that I was taught are true aren't. And, it's not anti-Mormon. It's actually the church is saying these things now. So, so the last 10 years I've been kind of on this journey, but about maybe 6 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, my Instagram account just really started taking off. And I started doing groups and classes and courses and really speaking to LDS community, specifically women. And once I hit 100,000 followers, then the critics started like, oh my gosh, she's an active Mormon and she can't do this. And so a couple of years ago, there was a letter writing campaign to try and get me excommunicated for some of the things that I had said online. And my stake president at the time was great and was really good friends with my then husband. And he gave me a talking to, but it was very kind. He wanted me to meet the area authority, so the area authority would know kind of who I was and what I was about. But it was still traumatic to be called in to, meet with three men.
Can I pause you?
So I brought.
You said it was traumatic.
Yeah.
Why? What's that feeling?
Do you have three? So it was the area authority, my stake president, and my then husband, who was the bishop.
Oh, that's weird and awkward. The bishop husband. More so that.
Oh yeah. And so it just, and I also invited a friend because I was like, I'm not going to be the only female in the room. That doesn't feel right. So although it was very benevolent, just the process of being in a relationship with an institution where people think that they can call you in and talk to you and, talk to another grown adult, that's traumatic.
It's the principal's office, getting called to the principal's office feeling in high school.
Yeah. It's like, you're in trouble.
Naughty.
You better watch it. Yeah. And it felt like being like, oh, they're trying to silence me from speaking up about things that really matter to people and to me. And yeah, so nothing happened from that. Fast forward a couple of years, and this was last winter, a new stake president reached out by text and said he'd like to meet with me. And we went back and forth for about 3 days, and he wouldn't tell me why. He's like, I just want to check in with you and see how you're doing. And I said, okay, if that's really it, then I'm fine. My family's fine. We don't need to meet. So I didn't meet with him. So then the bishop, who is a friend of mine, calls and says, hey, can I stop by to talk to you about why I want to talk to you? I was like, can you guys just be straight
exactly.
up?
That happens so often. I hate that.
So this was like November-ish. He stopped by and he asked if I would be willing that they were concerned about some of my content and my testimony, and if I would be willing to go through the temple recommend questions with the stake president and the bishop. And I said, absolutely not. Like, what is this?
Because your recommend wasn't like,
he said, well,
renewing right at the time. It was like,
no. And so I went and got my purse and I handed him my recommend and I said, Bishop, if you're concerned about this, you can have it. Like, here you go. I'm not doing this. And we had a really good conversation. I showed him some recent messages that I'd gotten about how I'd help people. And I talked to him about, I'm trying to minister to people in pain, and there's a lot of pain in our community. So that went okay. And then the stake president called me and I debated whether or not. So there was a first stake president and the second stake president. So that same guy he called me and I decided to pick up. And I was like, I wonder if he'll be willing to tell me on the phone. And yeah, he said, we have concerns about your online content, and would you be willing to meet with me? And, he said, yeah. So I said, yeah, I'll meet with you. I want to know like what you want to cover and those kind of things. So I met with him. I brought my friend who's a therapist with me, and I didn't bring my husband. And because I didn't feel like he was supportive of, like he would kind of side with the stake president. So I brought my friend who I felt really understands kind of what I'm about. And I was warned that he read the definition of apostasy, which includes criticizing policies, which I have done. I've criticized the trans policy last year that was kind of an update and just said it's really hurtful to trans people and perpetuates stereotypes. And I had recently said that the garment, refocusing on garments feels really targeted to women because garments are patterned after men's underwear, not women's underwear.
There's no men whining about their garments online anywhere. Right?
Yeah.
That's another story.
So those were a couple of examples that, and I also gave him about 500 letters of support that I had asked my online friends to submit. So I just plopped over 500-ish letters just saying how I'd help them. And then after the meeting, it was less traumatic because I really gave myself permission by that point to like whatever, I'm going to humor. Like I was kind of
playing with it,
more humoring him. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So, but it was still very emotional, and to have somebody kind of chastise you and tell you you're borderline apostasy, and people think you're weakening faith. And I tried to explain my job is not to strengthen faith or weaken faith. It's to promote mental health and healthy relationships. And sometimes that coincides with what the church is teaching, and sometimes it doesn't. And as a professional, I have to go with my professional ethics and best practices for my profession over the church when I'm acting as a professional. And that's really hard for people to get. So nothing has happened since then. That was like December, I think. The 2 months later, my husband and I decided to separate and divorce. And one of the things my stake president said to me, I said, was this a letter writing campaign from, the internet trolls? And he said, yeah, but we've also had some from your ward. And that like broke my heart. Yeah. Because I'd served in that ward for, decades, and to think that it wasn't safe for me to be there was really hard. And so that's when I stopped going to church January, and haven't gone since. So I got separated in March, and then divorced in May. I've had every life change. I moved in March, divorced in May, empty nester a couple of weeks, a month ago. So lots of life changes in the past 9 months. It's been kind of crazy. But I announced publicly that I was no longer attending, I think in June, just on a Q&A on my Instagram stories. And then people saw like, oh my gosh, kind of hit the internet. So any questions?
Yeah, the people, because I felt that too when when you said people outside your ward, fine, but people that know you anonymously don't feel like they can come to you and just talk.
Yeah.
So it's a weird. Again, I'm not at the level you are with your journey. Almost hate hearing that word now, but that's what it is. But
It's true.
there's something in our culture that we're taught, and maybe not overtly in a class, but we're taught to fear. No, it's been taught from General Conference. Don't talk to those unbelievers. Nelson said that.
Yeah. And we're responsible, like you are your brother's keeper, right? Like you're supposed to keep everybody else in line. And um, yeah. So yeah, that was a breaking point. I haven't gone to church for 9 months and I haven't missed it at all. Like not for one second.
And it's sad for them because they're missing you. They're missing if the ones that could recognize it don't have you around to add to the goodness, because there is, it's not all horrible.
Right. Oh, there's a lot of good.
Yeah. And I have to pull myself back sometimes because I've sort of become what I don't like. And so I have to just back up and say, everyone in here is trying to do the best they can with what they have. That's how I justify it.
Right. And everybody's at a different place.
But this weird fear of like, oh, if somebody's asking or questioning, then they're poisoned. They become poison. People feel like they have to go underground. Right. That's why there's these,
don't want to
the underground apostate. So it's just because you just wanted to talk about, like, wait a minute. So Valerie had mentioned that she said that when she was going through this with her leaders, she sensed that they were afraid if they said, we thank you for all you're doing for our members. If they acknowledge that, then they would have to acknowledge it. Hey, there are problems here that need addressing. Is that, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that a similar perspective that you have? Like what do you think people are afraid of?
Well, they're afraid of people leaving the church. And they felt like I was leading people out of the church. And the worst thing in the world in their minds is for someone to leave the fold.
That's perfect.
And so they have to get rid of the people that are ushering them out, although that's not what I'm doing. I support people's choice, and I think it's a totally legitimate choice to leave. And they don't like that either. And I think there's something about being a woman and having a platform and being strong and having a voice and running businesses, and you know what I mean? It's like not the typical Mormon woman role.
You need to get back in your place, woman. That kind of that.
I know.
The patriarchy. And I used to hate hearing that word.
Yeah. I'm sure that's unconsciously part of it
you
too.
Said in your meetings with the leadership that it was benevolent, but benevolent patriarchy, it's a real thing.
Yeah.
And
yeah, absolutely.
Oh, the statement that's always attributed to J. Reuben Clark about if you have the truth, you shall not fear. You know what I'm referring to? If you don't have it, then it ought to be questioned or something like that. And I used to think if it's all that we've been taught that it is, and it's perfect, and it's the only thing that's true, shouldn't it be able to stand up to absolutely anything? Was my question.
Right.
But it doesn't seem like, I don't know.
I agree. And that's the point I got to 10 years ago. Like I want to know, when the November policy came out, I was just ripped open for my LGBTQ clients, friends, family members. And I just thought, for the first time, like, wow, maybe Jesus isn't in this church at all, because this is not what Jesus would do. And it's kind of the first time I thought that, like, that was a real possibility.
Maybe he wasn't taking the wheel, as Carrie Underwood says, right?
Yeah. Like Jesus isn't in this policy. I'll tell you that.
No, it doesn't. And you know what? Back then, just full disclosure and confession time for me, I didn't even notice or care. That's my position at the time. I didn't get it. I didn't know anybody that I was aware of that was in the gay community. I was just not involved. I have my oldest daughter came out about 4 years ago. Now I'm involved in that world.
Changes your life.
I've learned so many things, amazing things, and realized, it's not just some willy-nilly choice people make. And I can only imagine what she was feeling at the time, because obviously this is not something she just decided to do one day. It's always been there. These policies, and then the trans policy, and I don't, just some of the, I don't understand that world, but I'm learning about it. Much like I was with the gay community, I didn't get it. And I think when we don't, if we're not exposed to things, if it's not, doesn't affect us, we don't learn about it. Generally speaking, as a human condition, I didn't, or maybe it's just me, but until it touches you, you don't.
Proximity makes it, like, forces you to look at it, and especially if it's someone you love. I have family members who are gay. I have family members who are trans. It personally affects me. And then I have clients, and it impacts people. I see the wreckage.
Yeah. And that's my next question, where I was going was, tell me, what are you seeing with your client base? Are you seeing an uptick in mental challenges?
Well, since we only see people who are challenged, like who are going through challenges, mental health or relationship, it's hard to say there's an uptick. There's definitely an uptick after COVID. It was kind of like nobody could find a therapist that had openings. It's kind of settled down now, but I'm seeing a lot of faith crises, mixed faith marriage. I work a lot with women in midlife who are kind of going through transition, trying to find themselves. And just, I see a lot of patterns with women in the church, whether they're in or out. If they have that background, there's some commonalities in how we've developed. So I love working with those clients.
Can you elaborate on some of those for people that might be listening, that might be?
Yeah. So an underdeveloped sense of self. So kind of getting married young and abandoning self-development because that's what's taught is righteous in the name of caregiving. And so women don't prioritize themselves, or don't continue to, not women, but some women don't continue to develop personally. Their whole life is around caregiving for others. So when kids leave or go to school or, whatever, it's a time when women reflect and think like, well, who am I? Like, what do I want? I haven't even asked myself that for 20 years, So they're really doing the work of like late adolescents and early to mid 20-year-olds at 40, 50, because they've been taught that self-sacrifice is the highest
Calling,
noblest thing, and that their highest calling is a mother, and have as many kids as you can, and kind of the pressure to be perfect. So that's kind of the theme, is underdeveloped sense of self, and not because of their own weakness or lack of effort. It's just culturally it's not supported.
Just been conditioned into them.
Yeah.
Do you see anything comparable with male clients, or do you only deal with females?
I primarily see women, but I've had a lot of male clients through the years. What happens with men in the LDS church is they kind of get shut down in a different way, because careers, education are supported. There's kind of development in that way, but often there's an emotional underdevelopment for men, lack of connection to emotion, lack of skills to express emotion. Whenever there's a rigid role-based relationship, it limits intimacy. And so that's what I've seen with a lot of men, that they're disconnected from their emotional selves, although they're more connected in these other areas than a lot of women are. But a lot of men who've kind of been playing the role have given up their dreams too. Maybe they want to be a musician and they ended up being an attorney, and because that's how you make money. And, so men abandon their dreams too, but there's more support for a development of self and more leadership positions for men. And, it's kind of, it's a given that men are going to have a career and have a family. For women, it's presented as a binary.
The patriarchal ladder with men, I guess, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you see it changing? I know, riding a ship takes it's a long process. Do you see more like an influx of clients coming because of things that aren't changing? Or do you see, or is my question making any sense where I'm trying to go, like within the church, within the institution?
Yeah, just define are you talking about like sexism in the church or rigid gender roles or
just some of the changes, like all the people that are coming to you for all these challenges.
do I see it changing? Yeah, women, it's a little bit more socially acceptable to get an education and have a career, although it's still not supported overtly over the pulpit. So that's gotten a little bit better. Women are slightly more visible than when I was growing up. But nothing significant has changed in the structure, because by definition, a patriarchy is male rule. So women are not the decision makers. And until they become that, with men working together, it's just going to be unequal.
The same padding, yeah, we're going to get conference talk after conference talk saying how amazing you are.
Right. It's like, if you have to tell someone they're so amazing, then there's a problem. Like, they should feel it. They should experience how amazing they are because of their interaction with you, not because of just you telling them.
Yeah. Well, there was an article on Exponent 2 this week. Forgot who wrote it, but anyway, talking about how Wendy Nelson giving examples of how President Nelson, loves women and treats women and they're equal. And the example that was given was how he holds the door open for her. That's how he shows that she's equal, because he holds the door.
Yeah. It's like, no, that's not.
Yeah, well, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's a crumb.
But that doesn't mean we're equal. I'm just, you're just as valuable as I am. That's not what it means. And there are so many things that the church could do that don't even require ordination of women.
I was talking with, are you familiar with Cynthia Winward and Susan Hinckley at Last She Said It?
I'm interviewing with them right after this.
Oh, awesome. Yeah. I'm one of their biggest fans.
Oh, me too. Me too.
She was just like, state clerk. I could do that. Things like that. I don't need this priesthood ordination for something like that. It's just stupid, something. So yeah, right. Yeah, you're going to have fun with them. They are awesome. I mean,
yeah, I've interviewed several times with them. So it'll be fun.
She just love her. I love their spirit.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I think we've covered most of it. We could go deep, and I don't want to have this be a church bashing session, but I see a lot of problems.
Oh, I hope it doesn't feel that way.
No, just me, because I could start going down. I could get on my box and just start hammering on things that I see. And I'm not, I don't get hung up on all the past stuff because it's in the past, but it's just the things that are happening now. That's
right.
People are hurting now.
Yeah.
My daughter went to the one that's gay. She went to the temple, got married, and she's like, "Dad, that was traumatic." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? It's traumatic? Yeah, it's weird, but it wasn't traumatic." But now I can see her perspective on some of those things, and how out of balance they are. And yes, they've changed the verbiage, and
there is movement and still no significant structural change. That's what I'll say.
And I've heard the phrase that people have to die off for things to change, which is that'll take forever. But I don't know. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Because we have access to everything. There's nothing that can be hidden anymore. Not that, and I don't know if they're overtly trying to hide things or were. I mean, that's the jury's still out on that, I guess. But
yeah, Right.
But it's just like we can be better. We can do better. I still go, still involved because I'm trying to just see if I can, again, making you, once you're out, if you're out, then no, you're a pariah. You're poison. Right.
Mm.
So what else haven't I asked you about this whole situation that you're dealing with that you want to talk about?
I pretty much told kind of the story. Yeah, I'm surprised how little, like, that I don't miss it.
Because maybe there wasn't the value.
And that's been surprising.
The value wasn't there.
Yeah. And I really appreciate having another day of the week. Like
Get
a
a
second
raise and
Saturday.
get another day or whatever.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. So I know, I think I've shared, most of my
Have people, well,
current
now
story.
that I was almost wrapping it up, have people reached out to you from your last ward that you moved from and, in the last 9 months?
A few people have, yeah.
Good. Well, the ones
Yeah.
that, your real friends that will.
Yeah. And some have said, I've never complained about you because they
were
listen to a
worried that it was like,
podcast,
Lord, is it I? They kind of thought
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, really. Yeah. I mean, it's great people in my ward, in my old
It's hard
ward.
to, it's hard to know you. I'm pretty quiet about where I'm thinking. There's a few guys I talk with and openly, but I just watch. I pay attention more than I ever have, which is interesting.
Yeah.
Why didn't I pay attention for the 30 years I've been in? But now I'm like, wait a minute. I've heard that 1,000 times, but now it doesn't ring the same way it used to.
Yeah. Yeah. Your perspective changes, huh?
So I keep trying to love my neighbors and do all the things that we're supposed to do. But well, Julie, well, thank you. Is there anything I can do to help you in your cause or anything?
No, but can I just share that I do a Faith Journeys women's group coaching every month, and it's one of the highlights of this year. It's been so great. So it's a group of women. We get together in a Facebook group, and then they get access to all of my courses, and then we do a group coaching session on a theme related to a faith journey, faith expansion. And so that's you can go to drjuliehanks.com to join that, and it's like totally affordable, much more affordable than therapy. So yeah, so there's that. And then wasatchfamilytherapy.com is my therapy practice in Utah and surrounding states. So we have people that are licensed in other states as well.
Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you for doing that. I was just about to wrap it up and do my, how do we reach you kind of thing. So thank you for, no, you're fine.
Beat you to it.
That's okay. So you're doing a lot more of these than I am. So, well, thank you again. Appreciate you coming on and sharing this. And if there's anything I can do to help in the cause, let me know for what that's worth. And
thank you, Brian. I've enjoyed.
Thank you again for listening to the Parrish the Thought Show. We know you have many podcast options and appreciate that you have chosen us. If you love what you hear, please give us a rating on whatever platform you find us. And don't forget to share, like, and subscribe. If you hate what you hear, only tell us. You're still here? Click on the next episode for more from the Parrish the Thought Show.